What's going on YouTube? So large luxury SUVs seem to be getting more and more expensive these days. So thankfully, there are relatively affordable options such as this 2023 Infiniti QX80. Infiniti has continued to add updates to their top model to keep up with the competition. So without further ado, let's go ahead and check out the latest version of Infiniti's luxury behemoth. So let's get things started here by talking about the exterior design of this QX80. This honestly is one of my favorite elements about this SUV because even though the QX80 is an old school luxury SUV, they did such a good job with the exterior design. I think it's aged very gracefully. This continues to be a very handsome looking luxury SUV. So up here in the front, we've got the signature Infiniti look. You've got their typical grille shape. It's going to be surrounded by chrome, large Infiniti emblem in the middle, and you've got this kind of wave texture finished in a dark gray through the middle. The other element that I really like, though, are your headlights. Infiniti has a cool way of making headlights that I've always enjoyed. It's kind of got this swoosh effect that looks really nice during the daylight and the nighttime, and you've got the daytime running light and turn signal indicator that goes through there. As far as the headlights themselves, they are of course going to be full LED. And then down below you will also find a square-shaped LED fog lamp. Now moving on to our wheels, you do have a few different choices here depending on which trim level you choose. So the base model, that will come with a 20-inch alloy wheel. However, the other models will come with 22-inch alloy wheels. This Sensory model has a really nice looking 22-inch alloy wheel with a smoked gray finish, multi-spokes. Overall, I think it really looks nice, especially with this gray paint scheme that we have on today's example. Up above that, you've got a vent, which is functional. I can feel the heat coming out of it. And let's talk about the mirrors. We've got some different selections here as well. So as you move up the trim levels, you go from body colored to black to this chrome finish on the top end model. And then as far as the features are concerned, you've got all of them. So this does have blind spot monitoring, heating, power folding, and auto dimming on both the driver and the passenger side, which is something that the Escalade V we had recently did not have.
Now at the side of the 2023 QX80, you're going to find a length of 210.2 inches, which does make this about the same length as a regular wheelbase Cadillac Escalade. Do note, however, that this does not have a long wheelbase version. So unlike the Navigator and Escalade, you're going to be stuck in this wheelbase configuration right here. Now, as far as some of the design elements, chrome door handles, chrome window surrounds, and a chrome roof rail up at the top. And then moving our way around to the rear design, you're going to see no changes for 2023 in terms of the way it looks. It's that signature QX80 look, which is pretty attractive. It's kind of rounded off, which is a little bit unique for this segment of vehicle. Normally they're very square. And as far as some of the design elements, we have an exposed rear wiper right here. We have Infiniti branding through the middle, and this chrome piece will intersect between your taillights. These are going to be a very nice taillight design. They look very similar to what you see in the front for the headlights. They're going to be LED accented, LED brake light, LED reverse light. But then dropping down, you will find your turn signal integrated here in the bumper. This is actually going to be an incandescent turn signal, which I'm a little bit surprised to see on a full luxury three-row SUV like this. I would like for them to maybe update that to an LED turn signal. We're going to have a hidden exhaust outlet, but it's over here on the right side. And if you're looking to tow things in your QX80, it can tow 8,500 pounds with four-wheel drive, which is a very good rating. Now, as far as your safety systems and warranty information, there actually are some changes for 2023, so let's go ahead and discuss those. So for your safety systems, you're going to have every single one of them as standard equipment. So that's going to be forward emergency braking, lane keeping assist, which now has a new haptic feedback function, which is the new feature for 2023. You also have auto high beam headlamps, as well as adaptive cruise control. And as far as your warranty information, you're also going to see a change here. You're going to have Infiniti's signature 4-year 60,000-mile basic warranty, 6-year 70,000-mile powertrain warranty, but now for 2023, they're also including 3 years of complimentary maintenance. Guys, that wraps up the classic exterior design on the outside of the QX80. Now let's check out the luxurious cabin.
So walking up to the QX80, as you would expect, you do have a standard smart entry system as well as standard remote start built into the key fob. As you can tell, though, we do have the older style Infiniti and Nissan key fob, which is very lightweight and a little cheap feeling. And to get inside the vehicle, you're just going to press the button and open it up. There's a quick look at the interior as a whole. We'll go ahead and climb inside. Getting inside is very easy. We do have built-in running boards. These are the fixed kind. And then you also have a nice assist grip over here on the driver's side. Now, right from the start here, let's go ahead and talk about our interior material and color selections. So you do have a lot of them. You're going to start out with real leather, and you've got the choice between graphite or wheat color options. The premium select trim level gives you some additional color options, including truffle brown. And then when you go for this fully loaded sensory trim level, that's where you'll get the beautiful quilted semi-aniline leather. And this is also available in a graphite, wheat, or saddle brown, which is what we have today. As you can see, really nice look to this. I love the quilting. The leather is really nice quality, super smooth and supple. Now, as far as the seat controls, we have a 10-way power adjusting seat with 2-way lumbar support, no massaging or anything like that. And taking a look at the door trim, you'll see that same saddle brown leather reflected up here as well. So it's really nice and cushy. You've got stitching detail through there, quilting details through there, and leather along the top part. This trim level does also come with the burl walnut wood trim, and you'll see that reflected throughout the cabin. Right there are your two-person memory seats, and you do have 4 fully automatic windows. As we head to the upper part of the dashboard, you do have a soft touch plastic with a stitching detail. You'll see more of that wood trim kind of circle through there and go onto the door trim. Soft touch plastic in the center section, and then you have matching leather that runs all down through this console area and along the side for your knee to rest against, and some more wood in the center. Now to start it up, put your foot on the brake and press the standard button. Now the QX80 is certainly an old school SUV, and you can see that when you're taking a look at the gauges. They are mostly analog, and you do have a 7-inch multi-function display right there in the middle. You can customize some of the information inside of that, and you can also make adjustments to your safety systems inside the display. There is no head-up display, though. You do have rain-sensing wipers, and as we pull back to the steering wheel, we've got a nice leather-wrapped steering wheel. You will find the leather-covered airbag cover if you choose the top-end sensory model, and I do like the matching stitching detail. Also, you will have this burl walnut that traces the entire outside edge of the steering wheel. The wheel itself is going to be power tilt and telescoping. Heating is located right over here. You'll find several other buttons, including an interesting one. These buttons right here will actually fold the second row seats from the front, so that's a cool feature. Let's go ahead and check out the interior storage, because this is a big luxury SUV after all, so hopefully we'll find a big amount of storage. Start out underneath our center console here. We do have a little tray which we can toss to the side, and once we do that, you got a pretty nice sized center console bin. This is quite deep. Obviously, it's felt lined on all the sides as you expect from a luxury vehicle, but let's put it to the test. Now, I actually brought 2 different metrics of measurement today. I brought both our fat stacks of cash, because this is an expensive luxury SUV after all, but I also brought our coupons, because this is a lot cheaper than most of the competition. And look at that, it will swallow up both fat stacks of cash and coupons for the discerning customer. And you also can open it up from the rear side as well. Now, moving on from that, we've got our 2 cup holders, and you've got some additional storage that's going to be located behind this piece of wood. That right there is going to be your wireless phone charging pad, so you can slide your phone up there. You also have a 12-volt outlet, and then below that, you've got your 2 USB ports. Now moving back here to the shifter, we've got a unusually tall looking shifter, but it is traditional in operation. Pull back for drive, bump to the left. If you want to shift manually, you can control it here, but there's no paddle shifters on the steering wheel. And then when we head into reverse, you'll be greeted with Infiniti's surround view camera system. As you can tell, it does have parking sensors, both front and rear. We also have moving object detection. But I am disappointed that it doesn't take up the entire display, even though it clearly has a lot more real estate it could be taking up, and also the resolution is quite low for this type of vehicle. That being said, the mirrors do tilt down in reverse to help you see the parking lines easier. You do not have an electronic parking brake, so you actually have the foot-activated style over here on the left-hand side. Now, as we go behind the shifter, this is your Infiniti InTouch controller. It is also a touch screen, but you can use the control knob if you don't want to put fingerprints on the screen, for example. And let's rise on up here to our climate controls next. This is a standard 3-zone automatic climate control setup. So very simply, we can make adjustments to the front climate with these big knobs. You can also press this button to make adjustments to the rear climate. I like that everything is physically located, super easy to get to. You do also have standard 3-stage heated seats. However, if you want seat ventilation, that's standard on the sensory trim level only. Alrighty, and then right above the vents, we have our volume knob for the audio system. So with this model, we do have the 17-speaker Bose Performance audio system. This is included with the sensory trim level as opposed to the other 2 trim levels which come with a 13-speaker sound system. And let's go ahead and give it a sample. Yeah, so overall sound quality of this system is pretty good. Really strong performance with the sound system. It fills up the cabin nicely. It's definitely a little on the bass heavy side of things, but I imagine that's the way a lot of people like it. Alright, so let's talk about the main infotainment system as well. So if you remember, a few years ago, Infiniti refreshed this cabin for the, I believe, 3rd time. And they went from the dual screen setup back to a single screen like it originally had when it came out. This single screen, though, is a lot more advanced than what it originally had. It's got the latest Infiniti InTouch software. As you can see, it is a touchscreen. You can also use that control knob, and you've got little widgets, and overall performance is pretty good. This is what your built-in navigation system is going to look like. However, if you want to use Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, you can use both of those systems. But there is one thing I want to point out about that. That's the fact that only Apple CarPlay is wireless. If you have Android Auto, it is not wireless. You'll still have to plug it in. So I do have an Android phone, so that's why you're not seeing Android Auto up on the display right now. And lastly, I do want to mention that 2023 sees the addition of Amazon Alexa abilities. Now rising on up here, we do have a standard frameless auto-dimming mirror, and if you flip this switch, you'll also see that it is the rear camera mirror system. So this cuts out all the back obstructions, and you've got your 3 HomeLink universal remotes built in right there as well. And then moving up to our top panel, we do have a regular size sunroof. Unfortunately, this continues to not be available with a panoramic sunroof like most of the competition is offering, so you just have to make do with this pretty small regular size sunroof.
Come on back here and join me in the QX80's rear seat. Now, of course, this is a large luxury 3-row, so it needs to have a really nice 2nd-row seat, and I'm happy to say, as far as the features are concerned, we do have a really nice area back here. Let's talk about the space first, though, before we get into the features. It's also a very spacious option. We're looking at 41 inches of legroom, 40 inches of headroom, so definitely enough space for someone who is my size. I'm 5'9". For reference, this is Drew's seating position. He's 5'8", and there's definitely plenty of room. I will say, though, that my feet can't really slide up underneath of the seat, which is a little disappointing, and we're not going to be able to slide these second row seats forward and back, but we can recline them, which is nice. Now, as far as some of the features are concerned, you will notice that we have the bench seating on this particular model. That is a no-cost option. Every QX80 will actually come with a center console setup, which I think feels a little bit bougier than this middle seat option right here, but this is a no-cost option if you want to have that additional seat. And we can also fold this down. 2 little tiny cup holders in there. And then as far as the center area, you have this button right here, which allows you to access the center console. That's kind of cool that it opens in both directions. Down below that, we have our own climate controls, so you can adjust your temperature like that. We also have 2-stage heated seats. These are actually going to be standard on this fully loaded Sensory model. It's in the high and low setup. You also have charging USB ports down below that. And on the ground, we have a household style outlet as well as a 12-volt outlet. You're probably also noticing these rear entertainment screens. These are going to be included for this Sensory model, so you're going to have these really nice infotainment screens. You do have a remote control, so you can just control it using this right here. So you turn them on and off. I can go home and select all of our different settings. I believe you can mirror it from your phone. I started to do it a little bit earlier. If you own the car, it was actually pretty easy to set up, so you can mirror things from your phone just like you would on a Chromecast at home. And then up top we have a nice vent up here, as well as an assist grip. For your door trim, it's going to be pretty nicely finished. Do be aware there's no rear window sunshades, but it's going to be leather wrapped on most of it. You have a nice quilted design. The armrest is really thick, and then down below that we do have some bottle storage. Now this is a 3-row SUV, so let's check out that 3rd row. In order to get back there, you just find this little lever that folds the seat forward and aggressively slams it to the back of the passenger seat. So make sure you don't have someone sitting there who might have a concussion after that. Now as far as the 3rd row itself, we do have quite the height to get in back here. All right. And sitting back here, we're going to have about 28.8 inches of legroom behind the second row seats, about 36 inches of headroom. The headroom is certainly not anything bad. It's pretty decent on the headroom. The legroom is going to be lacking, though. You can recline the seat forward a little bit. That's going to give a little bit additional room, but like I said, you cannot slide it forward and back to give people in the 3rd row more space. So you're pretty much going to have no leg room for someone of my size, and also your feet aren't going to be able to go up underneath the seat, and the thigh support is going to be lacking, that's for sure. It's almost like a downward sloping seat, so you're not going to have very much thigh support. That being said, Infiniti has included a few nice features, so we do have the ability to recline the 3rd row. So power reclining abilities, that's a nice feature to have, and it does give you a little bit more space. Maybe I have about an inch of space between my knees and the seat back, and we do have vents up at the top as well. Now walking up to your tailgate, it is going to be a standard power tailgate. There is no hands-free abilities though, so do be aware of that. I also want to point out this is something you notice after living with the truck for 7 days. Tailgate is definitely very slow, so if it's raining outside and you're really wanting to just throw something in there, you're not going to be able to do so quickly. Now, as far as the space is concerned back here, we're looking at 16.6 cubic feet of cargo capacity behind the 3rd row seats, about 50 cubic feet behind the 2nd row, and as a maximum, you're looking at 95 cubic feet of cargo capacity. Those are honestly pretty good space figures. It's definitely going to be less than a lot of the rivals, the big competitors like the Escalade as well as the Lincoln Navigator, but it's not by a ton, so as long as you're not needing to haul a massive amount of stuff, you're going to be fine in this Infiniti QX80. Now, as far as some of the other features, we do have a nicely carpeted floorboard. Inside of here, you have a little bit of storage. If I lift this up, we have our tire fix kit, and your spare tire is actually located underneath of here. And then as far as the 3rd row, we're actually going to have a power folding 3rd row. So you just press these little buttons here. Luckily, it does allow you to do one single press and then fold the third row because it is a little bit slow in folding, but as you can see, you'll get the job done. The seat is reclined, so it's not going to do that one, but that gives you a good idea of what it looks like with the third row folded down. There is not any buttons to fold the second row from back here, so do be aware of that as well. The passenger seat is going to be 10-way power adjusting. We do have 2-way lumbar support. And then as far as the glove box is concerned, the glove box honestly is going to be a little bit smaller than what I would like. It's definitely going to be big enough to fit the stacks of cash, but the coupons are definitely going to struggle to fit in here. So do keep that in mind if you're more of a coupon guy. Now, I also want to point out it's not felt lined, which would be nice for a luxury vehicle. Now up top, we do have a sun visor. It does have some lighting as well as a mirror. We can also detach it, and there's an extension at the end. All right, there's a little bit over 60 miles per hour in the 2023 Infiniti QX80. Now, as you can tell by that acceleration, we're going to have a big old school V8 under the hood, which certainly is a good thing for this segment of vehicle. It's going to be a 5.6 liter V8, 400 horsepower, 413 pound-feet of torque, and certainly that's enough power to get this thing up to speed, I'd say, relatively quickly for the segment of vehicle.
Yeah, Car and Driver rates this at 6.6 seconds, 0 to 60. That's about what it feels like to us as well. And yeah, power is definitely competitive inside of this segment. You know, you've got some vehicles that have shifted to turbocharged, hybridized engines, things like that. But Infiniti's sticking it out, going old school. And, you know, that's one of my favorite things about it, really behind the wheel, is just listening to that V8 growl. Yeah. Yeah,
I mean, it's burly, and that's really the thing that I enjoy the most about it, is that awesome V8 growl. Now, we'll talk about this a little later in the video, but that probably costs about $5 in gas to do that. But, you know, why not? Gotta enjoy it. Yeah, I love that V8 growl. Now, you might have also noticed the 7-speed automatic transmission on board. It's a good transmission. It definitely is willing to shift down and give you the power when you need it.
And we're on a good patch of road here where we can get a sound level reading. So. Alright, so we're setting at exactly 55, even at 55 miles per hour. So
that's very good.
Yeah, it's a nice reading. Certainly a good and very competitive number. Really, in our experience with it over the course of the last week, you really don't hear much of anything except for that V8 noise, which is the thing I want to hear.
Yeah, it's definitely a very refined experience driving this vehicle. And let's go ahead and talk about the ride quality, because, of course, to go along with that refined sound level reading, you do also have a pretty compliant ride. I would say this is pretty much on point with a lot of the rivals. It's certainly not going to be as good as an air suspension in something like a Cadillac Escalade or the magnetic ride control dampers in any of the GM siblings, but I'd say it's okay overall in terms of ride quality. It's pretty compliant. It has a little bit of a trucky feel to it, but a lot of people like that.
Right. I mean, it is an old school body-on-frame SUV, so you do have some shutters that come through the chassis, but overall it does a pretty good job. Also, in this Sensory model that we have today, we do have what Infiniti calls hydraulic body motion control, and essentially that is a dampening system that allows you to have a little bit less motion in the body as we go around corners and stuff. You know, once again, it is still a humongous SUV, but it does feel pretty stable, I think Mason could
Yeah.
attest, as you go around some of these corners.
We drove a Nissan Armada that did not have the system, and I'd say this is a lot more controlled and more confidence-inspiring on a country road like this.
Right. The only problem is when you're going around corners, the seats are so incredibly flat that
sliding.
you just slide around. Like, they are actually flat. I've never sat in a seat that has no bolster at all on the side for your butt.
Nothing.
You just freely slide around wherever. And we didn't mention it earlier, but you do have both rear-wheel drive versions and 4x4 versions available. Let's also go ahead and talk about our slam dunk and airball for the day. I'll start off with the slam dunk. That's going to be the fact that this is really still a very handsome looking SUV. I think even though this is an older style SUV, it's really aging gracefully on the exterior.
For sure.
It still looks quite fancy when you pull up, and it's pretty handsome compared to some of the competition, which can be a little bit more, I don't know, gaudy looking.
Yeah, for sure. And as far as our airball is concerned, you might have guessed this, but this vehicle has been out for a long, long while at this point, and just because of its age, there are some things that it just is not as good as some of the competitors. You know, the third row is not as big. It's not as big in cargo capacity. You have kind of that more trucky driving experience, which some people might not like. You know, so... And also, a few of the elements inside this cabin are just not as nice as some of the competitors.
Right.
Now, of course, it does come at a little bit of a price, more value-oriented price point, which we'll talk about in just a second.
Indeed. So let's go ahead and talk about that. So, the Luxe trim, which is the base model of this, is going to be $72,700. That in itself is definitely, more of a value price point than many of the rivals, as you probably know. The Sensory model, which is what we have today, that's going to start at $84,350. Now, the price of today's example, which has four-wheel drive and also has a few different accessories to kind of jazz things up, the destination is $1,695, and that takes our total price to $90,885, which, like we were saying, I mean, it's hard to call $90,000 a value, but in this segment, some of the things are like $120,000, $130,000. So yes, you could call it a deal, but you do get less than what some of the competition is offering.
And I will add to that by saying, even in today's market, we're shooting this video and, the end of 2022, they're still offering discounts on these QX80s, which you pretty much can't find in any of its competitors' vehicles. You might even get $5,000 to $10,000 off of MSRP, which is certainly a rarity these days.
Yeah, for sure. Also, speaking of rarity, it's rare to find a vehicle that gets fuel economy that's as low as this. This is rated at 13 city, 19 highway, 15 combined for this four-wheel drive example, which is obviously not good, but like we said, one of the strongest areas about this that old school V8.
All right, so after living with the QX80 for an entire week, what do we think overall? Well, I think this product definitely appeals to the person who is wanting a full-size luxury three-row, but doesn't mind it being old school. If you get in an Escalade, it's going to be tech-filled and full of luxury goodies and amenities, and you're just not really going to get that in this QX80, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, because some people really like the old school vibe that this truck offers, and it's also going to be at a highly discounted price point over a lot of its competition.
Well, guys, that's all for this in-depth review of the 2023 Infiniti QX80 Sensory. If you enjoyed watching this video or found it helpful in your purchasing decisions, we would really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button down below. It gives you notifications on some of our most recent content that you won't want to miss out on. We have a lot of different content. A lot of its competitors will be on our channel as well. Now, we also have TikTok and Instagram as other forms of media that don't quite last as long as a full YouTube video if you want to check those out. And we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.